I remember the day my dad came home from work with a Nintendo. Not a Super Nintendo, not an N64, but the old gray Nintendo with the rectangular controllers. And he had one game, and that was Super Mario Brothers, the original. And my sisters and I spent hours that first day playing Nintendo. My dad came down and watched and played with us. It was such a cool experience. I felt like so awesome that we had this thing. And little did I know that it was going to start me down a path of lifelong gaming.
Like, first of all, before we can get moved on from this, why do you have to blow in those cartridges? Where is the actual logic when that game is not working that you're blowing in a goddamn Nintendo cartridge to make it work?
Or when you squeeze it, like somehow squeezing the chip together harder with the plastic is going to make it work.
I never actually used that. I just used to give the like I was playing
like a harmonica
in
the machine.
But it seemed to work, right? It's like how much dust can possibly build up in that 5-minute span between me playing, hurry up and eating the meal, and then coming back to play again. Like, how is that possible?
I have no idea how it worked, but it worked its magic, and somehow we all knew it. We all knew how to do it. Welcome to an episode of Survive in Real Life. Today, we are talking about video games, why we love them, why we play them, our favorite video games, all that great stuff. I'm Matt. This is Daryl. Before we get into it, though, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more weekly updates. Follow us on our podcast, which is on Spotify and on Pocket Cast now. We're going to have the link in the description here if you're not following from that page already. And of course, follow us on Instagram and on Facebook. So Daryl, video games. Let's start with nostalgia, video games of our youth. What was your first game experience?
Well, I'm going to say probably the Nintendo, but I think I was a little bit too young to fully comprehend the greatness of it. But what I do remember growing up on is a Sega Genesis.
Yes, sir.
And it's funny, like you talk to people, they're either a Super Mario fan or a Sonic fan. There's like no in between. Yeah, I like both. No. I'm a Sonic fan. You're probably a Sonic fan. If you weren't a Sonic fan, we probably wouldn't be best friends, right?
No, I mean, that started a lot of it.
But no, I grew up on the Sega Genesis. The good thing is my brother and I didn't have to fight for it. He wasn't really a gamer, so it was like all to myself.
Yeah, I got a Sega Genesis for my birthday. I forget what year. It doesn't matter. At that time, the SNES was out, the Super Nintendo was out, and everyone was playing Mario, like Super Mario World and all that stuff. And I had the Sega, and I was just such a fanboy of my Sega and Sonic, and like it's such a faster game. Sonic's a cool character. He's not a plumber. He spins and he's got lightning and he's all these things. And I just like, you're right. Like you kind of became attached to your system and the heroes of your games, right? And so for us, it was Sonic.
Absolutely. And I find it funny, like talking to the kids of today who don't absolutely know who Sonic or Super Mario is. And if they do know Super Mario, it's like the Smash Brothers Super Mario. We're like, that's not legitimate, man. Like you're not bonking your head against bricks and jumping over pipes and plants. Like you don't know Super Mario. No. And it's like Sonic, same thing. Oh, is that the character who's in the movie? It's like, yeah, obviously they made a movie about him 20 years after he was cool. But I mean, you gotta know like the real Super Mario. Kids nowadays are so lucky with the graphics and video games they have. Like they didn't grow up like the, oh wow, is my game gonna work today? Or hey, I gotta pay and get this black cartridge and fit it in here and get like the Game Genie and get the Super Mario gun. There was none of that.
Sonic and Knuckles, like when you had to flip the cartridge over and put Sonic into the cartridge.
And then you had the option of actually losing your saved data. Yeah, that was the worst. Oh, God.
Probably one of my favorite things was renting games. And I used to go to the store. We'd rent movies as a family. I think we talked about this in a previous episode where we'd go to like, what was it in the mall next to our house? What was that place called?
Real Time?
Yes, Real Time. We go there and, pick out a movie and then mom would let me grab a game. I think the game I rented the most for my Sega was Baseball 2020. But anyway, yeah, I love that. And sometimes if people didn't play your game, like RPGs, you would rent it and then like a month later rent it again and your save would still be there.
Or even better, you actually had to solve problems in games and you couldn't go online to get a walkthrough. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Remember that game? So you and I played. I'm not gonna say what game. If you want to know what game I'm actually talking about, check out part 2. But the game Matt grew up with he lent to me on my Sega. And I remember going and calling him on the phone. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? He's like, walk me through it. I'm like, I couldn't go online, check what to do. And then I started finding more secrets than he did.
Mm-hmm.
And then he never let me borrow the game again.
Oh, come on now. Even now, we still talk about that game, and you're like, oh, yeah, remember that time I did this with that character? And I hadn't even touched that one. You maximized that game 100%.
What can I say? I've been competitive since I've been yay high.
The thing I want to say about games, though, the games of today are nowhere near, and this may be controversial, they're nowhere near as hard as the games that we grew up with. The games we grew up with were unforgiving. The graphics weren't perfect, so you would miss jumps by pixels that weren't there or were there, but they were actually like phantom pixels, or the levels were silly hard. You only had limited like 3 lives. None of this, oh, you can restart halfway through the level nonsense. No, if you are a Nintendo or a Sega gamer, you know what it was like to play hard video games.
And what about just the creativity behind the levels? I'm thinking about Super Mario 3. The amount of secrets in that game are phenomenal. But I remember something as simple as like there's like a large block. And if you duck down long enough, you end up going behind this block right to the exit. You get like a powerful item. I'm like, who thinks of that? And like, how do you even figure this out? And today, it's pretty straightforward. Go to this path, do this. Go to the next path, do that, and you're done. And really, I'm sure we can count how many hours. I don't want to count how many hours actually we've spent trying to beat a game. Today, I even asked the kids in my class, what's your average time on a video game? How long does it take you to beat it? 8 to 10 hours. 8 to 10 hours? That was a typical Saturday.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it's like anything. I mean, this is going to sound a little bit jaded, but money ruins all good things. The minute it became a huge business, it became about pumping out video games that had the biggest wow factor and that were the most accessible to the most number of players. It wasn't about creating a game that was challenging, unless you're playing like Demon Soul or whatever, which is, definitely made to be hard. But a lot of these games are made for the masses. So that someone, who works all day can sit home and just relax and play the game. And if somebody wants to come home and dive hours into the game, they can, but it's not really that hard. Like, there are games made for hardcore gamers, but I think they're fewer and far between. Whereas back in our day, I mean, if you and I were to sit down to play through a Sonic game, like, it was a commitment of time. And if you got to the Vegas level or the oil platform level, and you died, it was like, oh, okay, well, there's like 2 hours. I got to go back and restart and get there again.
And not only that controller was rock solid. So with my anger issues, that controller lasted forever. Yeah. I'm pretty sure I still have it in the box in the closet, man. My Xbox controller, on the other hand, oh my God. Even my little 4-year-old could just go like this, drop it, and the thing shatters. Yeah. I'm like, Sega and even Nintendo, they were durable. Insane. Yeah. I loved it.
Yeah. It's all, it's something else. I mean, we could get into all the conversations about business and, how video games have gone, into like the mass production cycle of like look at Assassin's Creed as an example, or how about looking at microtransactions and expansions and pre-orders and all that. I don't know what you want to do, but pardon?
I was gonna be my next point. Like, look how much you spend for one video game, because really, one video game is now $89.99 because it's new systems plus the DLCs plus the in-game purchases. You're looking at what, $150, $160. Especially if you get like legendary editions, ultimate editions, super califragilisticexpialidocious editions. Like, who the hell knows? I mean, like, what are you even paying for it? Like, I get like this new skin. I'm going to pay an extra $35, but like, they get away with it. They get it. And even like prepaid for games. Like, that's insane.
Yeah.
Like 4 or 5 months. Or think about like Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk, like, that game was hype, man. I was ready for that game. I couldn't wait. Then I started reading the reviews and how bad they were. And I'm like, thank God I don't pre-purchase these games. Mm-hmm. And how does a company pump this game out for how many years? Because it did take a couple of years for it to be released. And for it to be a steaming pile of garbage. Disappointed. Like, you never got that with the old school games. It's like they started it and they finished it. And they knew what they were doing and they just got the best out of it. I loved it.
Yeah. They approach it like a software, cycle where it's like, okay, we can patch it and add new features as we go because it's all software now. it's not a hard cartridge you have to go buy again. We can just send an update to the system. So why not just release it half finished and we'll fix it in a few months. We got our money. We're good.
But
I hate that.
And they're smart. They're smart as a business. Like microtransactions, that's incredibly smart, right? Because they could give you a free game, like Fortnite, for example. They give you a free game. Yeah, it's free. But hey, guess what? You look like everybody else. You're a generic character. Unless you want to pay for this skin. Oh, look, season pass. This is how much it's going to be. Oh, well, next thing you know, you've paid more for the game than you would for any other game. How is this happening?
Yeah. Good thing I'm a boring guy and I don't really care about that stuff. The last thing though I did want to mention, talking about nostalgia, probably my favorite thing about video games that I miss. So I like RPGs. I like to play games alone, but I also really love sitting next to somebody and playing a game or watching a game. Do you remember, I'll probably tell this story at some point today, but the hours we would sit watching one another play a video game or sitting next to each other playing a video game together, LAN parties where you with your friends across the room and play Halo. Like, that's all great stuff that's gone now. It's all online.
Nothing beats our 9-hour Brigandine session.
Well, that's what I was referring to, that horrible, horrible night where I showed myself to be really bad at video games.
Matt decided to play Brigandine for 9 hours, and I was okay with it. I just watched, but I would actually nap every now and then. And he'd kind of jump up with excitement or, defeat, and I'd wake up and be like, "Hey, good job." He's like, "Are you still awake?" I'm like, "No, I'm going back to bed," and wake up. 9 hours later, he lost the game, and I'm like, "You just spent 9 hours straight on one game just to lose."
Yeah,
it was great. Just great. But see, we remember that how many years later?
Or love it. University. Playing Battlefront, man. Same thing. Sitting side by side, taking down the evil empire. That's what I loved about social gaming, was sitting next to you, sitting next to our friends, my sisters, whatever, playing games. I remember playing Road Rash with my dad. That was awesome.
That's true. Think about it. Kids don't really get in the same room and play video games anymore.
No.
And how do you make new games? Have you ever seen Among Us?
No.
It's so weird and nothing great, but kids love it. But they love it for 10 minutes and then it's done.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas you and I, we remember games 20, 25, 30 years ago because they just had that much of an impact, or we're just freaking losers. Probably not.
Twitch effect. It's influencers. It's, look at this cool game we're playing, and companies pay people on Twitch to play their games, so they have thousands of viewers. All those people go buy the games, and then Among Us. I remember the game you're talking about. Among Us and Fall Guys. It lasts for 2 weeks, and then it's done.
Could we maybe start a Twitch Sonic the Hedgehog channel?
Oh, that would be great. That would be so much fun, and so much cursing, but so much fun. All right, guys. Well, let's call it there. We're going to take a little bit of a break. When we come back, and in our second part, if you're watching this on YouTube, we're going to be talking about our top video games. We're going to go through our lists and maybe tell you some stories along the way. So come back and stay tuned.